Welcome to a live version of the Bruce Collins Show right here at YouTube, and this, of course, will be streaming. And also, people who didn't catch our live can actually join us later on as a taped episode. And I want to. I'm actually. Let me. There we go. I was playing it on YouTube, and I was getting the feedback. Anyways, today my guest today is Andy Ross. Andy Ross is an accomplished singer-songwriter, TV host, and CEO. He weaves his passions as a singer songwriter, patriot, and self defense advocate into the creation of America's patriotic brand, the publicly traded American Rebel. Prior to founding American Rebel, Andy founded Digital Ally, which he established in 2004. In addition to his entrepreneurial accomplishments, Andy served as host for 12 years of his own television shows, Maximum Archery and American Rebel, where he bow hunted all over the world and featured his love of self defense, firearm and tactical skills, and music. Andy Ross, welcome to the Bruce Collins Show.
Hey, Bruce, I'm happy to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's an honor. Now, Andy, I actually usually tape these shows, but I saw all the press releases that came out, and I want to thank you for that. And I had a Bill O'Reilly epiphany. You know what that is? I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Let's do it.
There you go. Now, I see, Andy, that you're hanging out with the right crowd these days. You've been spotted with dignitaries like George Washington and Ben Franklin. What's going on?
Yeah, we're shooting a series of American Rebel commercials for our beer brand Rebel Light, and we've got a whole ad campaign. I don't want to let it all go here too quick, but we have a whole ad campaign built around people that we felt uh, that were rebels themselves that took risk and took chance, and certainly no one more than our founding fathers took risk and chance to create this wonderful country and this blanket of freedom in which we live in. And being the 250, the 250th anniversary of our country, we decided to incorporate that into an ad campaign. So what you saw out there was some highlights of some cutaways from the filming, if you will. We spent 3 days filming with a great group and cast of actors and wardrobe departments and film crew. And so we've got some really exciting commercials coming up, and you'll see the first ones coming off the editing room probably by July 4th. So just around the corner.
Great. Now, is there any truth to the rumors that you're related to Betsy Ross?
Um, well, I don't know how much truth's related to any rumor. So if it's just a rumor, we'll. Uh, I have no idea. Knowing my dad, my side of the family, I'm probably related to a whole bunch of people. So
Yeah.
you never know.
I'm allegedly related to General Custer. So when you go back, you never know. So
Yeah.
Andy, you've had success in music, television, and business. Looking back, which of those worlds was the hardest to break into and why?
My story, I'm blessed to get to tell it often, but I had a TV show for 10 years, as we talked about, Maximum Archery World Tour, bow hunting the world on outdoor TV, before it, turned into American Rebel. Um, and on that show, I saw kids doing crazy things with skateboards and bicycles and motorcycles, and this thing came around called the X Games. And I thought to myself, I have a bow hunting show, but if I don't make this more exciting, it's not going to grab the attention of kids that have these other high adrenaline things they're into. So we started filming the travel. We'd even, going in and out of bars and playing darts and almost getting in a little bit of trouble, but never too much for TV. Crossing borders and finding places to do laundry. I mean, we were on the road 7 months a year, so we started filming the travel and the behind the scenes. It was like well, it wasn't a reality show before the reality show boom, and I could play some music. So I wrote these hunting songs: "Got to Go Hunting Blues," "Hunt Me Down," "Buck of a Lifetime," "Blood Trail," and "A Whitetail." Support your local wildlife. And they really were designed just to enhance the show. But here came file sharing. Here came, the internet exploded. Here came iTunes. Next thing you know, I had music going everywhere. So all of a sudden I'm getting calls from Nashville, and I'm getting calls from national touring artists, earlier in their career, going, "Hey, we love your show. We're hunters. We'd love to be a guest on your show. And, your music is, it's okay. But if you want to, come to Nashville, man, we could write one." And I started getting these writing opportunities because of my profile on, the hunting show, and all these artists were hunters and, fans of the show. So I got a lot of opportunities. I met a producer, Doug Grau, and when I was working with the Davison brothers, and he did all the Travis Tritt records and Little Texas, and produced the Blue Collar Comedy Tour with Larry the Cable Guy and Jeff Foxworthy. And he looked at me one day and said, "Well, why don't we just make a record?" And so now I'm in the process of releasing. I've already been releasing singles off what will be my fourth album of music. But I had on my Time to Fight record, I had a song called American Rebel, went viral as a patriotic anthem, landed me on Counting Cars, where Danny built me the Second Amendment muscle car. And I met a gentleman, an entrepreneur by the name of Corey Lambert, who had just brought Smith and Wesson back to the U.S. and they were in the process of turning that thing around, and did an amazing job with that company. And we were talking one day, and I played him the video to American Rebel, and he said, "Well, Andy, that's a brand." He said, "That's America's patriotic brand." And in fact, he made a couple phone calls and actually injected capital into the company that day, and had to write checks to Andy Ross on tour, because American Rebel didn't even exist yet. That was in 2015. And we started with our concealed carry clothing, backpacks, coach jackets, moved into gun safes. And as I mentioned, we just launched America's patriotic, God-fearing, Constitution-loving, national anthem singing, Stand Your Ground beer. Um, I'm now getting around to answering your question, is that it was all the same. I mean, it all started from one thing just laid up right into the other. And like starting the business uh, wasn't really any more difficult than starting doing the music or the TV show. It all just parlayed into the next thing, and just it was just like an add-on, just like another layer of what I was already doing. And I got great people around me. I mean, Corey, runs the business, or running the business, and wants me to be out doing things like we're doing today, and promoting the brand, and playing shows, and I show up to some investor conferences, and do things like that. But really, it's all one and the same. And to kind of sum it up, your question is, people will ask me, "Well, how do you wear so many hats?" And I'm like, I don't. I wear one hat. The shows I played in Pennsylvania last weekend is the same hat, the same Andy Ross, and the same story is the one I'm telling today, is the one when I'm in New York on Wednesday in a meeting I'll be telling. And it's just the same person, same hat. It just happens to work in everything we're doing.
Hmm. A lot of things that I've done, I always call it falling forward, because I actually sold t-shirts, wrestling t-shirts, pro wrestling, on eBay, and then became a promoter. And one of the guys that I used was a wrestling manager who later became the voice of Monster Garage on the Discovery Channel. His name's
Oh,
Brett
cool.
Wagner. And then they decided to do a nationally syndicated radio show called Monster Radio. And they had me on, which I developed a gimmick. I was a book reviewer, but I really wasn't. I was using the books as props to make fun of liberals, high profile ones. And so that resonates with me. I totally fell forward in my life. I was very blessed. Now, your newest album you're talking about, the latest single is "Hold My Beer," I believe. How is this album? Is it different in any way than past albums, or what can people expect from this album?
Yeah, great question. And before I answer that, I just want to say I am going to borrow the fall forward analogy. I think that sums it up. I've had these long explanations, and you just summed it up in a couple of words. So I'm borrowing that one. Thank you for that.
Great.
Um, every album develops into something a little different, and it I like to think of it as like, Andy Ross and Andy Ross music. I have a lane and I have to stay in my lane. I tell people all the time, and just, humbly, I'm not winning the voice. I'm just not going to win the voice. And I'm not sure that they would turn a chair around, but I sing Andy Ross songs better than anyone in the world. And so I've developed something over time, and this is to answer how the albums get different. When we made the first record, You Ain't Seen Crazy Yet, Doug Grouse said to me, he said, Andy, we can't do a whole album of hunting songs. We can't, we can put maybe two on this thing, but you're going to have to, and this is when we sold hard CDs still. So we did have a 12, 13, 14 song CD. But we can't just fill it up full of hunting songs. We've got to do something different. So had mentioned he had handled Little Texas and, a lot of bands and knew a lot of writers. And I was very blessed that he would put me with those people to write. And we tried to write some top 40 country stuff that 40-year-old soccer moms driving minivans that live in the suburbs listen to. And we wrote a couple hunting songs. And we wrote, what else are you into? And I go, well, I archery hunt. All my hunting's bow hunting, but I love the shooting sports. I've trained a little bit at different places around the country, and been Knob Creek, and fortunate enough to be able to shoot a little bit and do some tactical training. I love the shooting sports. I'm very pro patriotic, pro Second Amendment, and so we kind of wrote some things around that, and we wrote some stuff that was a little harder. I come from the '80s, more of a rock background. Doug was very country with the country artists that he had worked with, and we put a couple things like You Ain't Seen Crazy Yet and Outlaw Women and Whiskey. Were a little rockier on that first album. But what you do is you basically do the first one, and then you see the two or three songs that for whatever reason, these are the ones that work. These are the ones that are requested. These are the ones that got me gigs. These are the ones that got downloaded. So when you make the next record, you kind of shoo away a couple
Yeah.
of the other influences, and you kind of start to focus on that. And so, we did that, especially going into Time to Fight and America's Son, and Ain't Running Out of Ammo, and American Rebel, all the songs. And then what happened, just to give you an idea, you're asking about the whole record, but specifically the song that's out, the new single that just came out the 15th of this month. I wanted to write a song in Andy Ross, country rock and roll fashion, and I wanted to write it about the 250, the anniversary of our country. I wanted it to be a celebration song for that. But I didn't want to write it so on the nose that after this year you wouldn't want to listen to it. I mean, it's not happy 250th birthday to you. I didn't want to do that.
Right.
So I wrote about, in the first verse, it talks a lot about the struggles and the challenges and the risks that were involved in even thinking you could start your own country and the challenges to do that. As you go into the second verse, it talks about us, you know, we were made of iron and steel, gold in the ground and crops in the field, always been on the cutting edge. Damn the torpedoes, full steam ahead. We had to learn to farm and build railways and mine gold and get oil out of the ground, and the industrial revolution, and then tech, right? We've always led, in tech. Um, at the same time, I wanted to talk about, hey, you haven't seen, you ain't seen nothing yet. The best is yet to come. I mean, we're a young country. 250 years is not an old country. We're a very young country, and I know we're not perfect. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell anyone that we're a perfect country. Um, but we've made some mistakes and done some things, and when you're growing and going fast and developing, you can do that. But we're by far the best country that's ever existed on this rock. The best country any of us have ever heard or talked about. That's why everybody in the world's trying to get here. I mean, just wake up in the morning and spin the globe and stop it with your finger. And if it lands on the United States of America and you say, I woke up here, you know how lucky you are. You know how blessed we are. But the
Right.
best is yet to come. So I wanted that to be in the song. Now, here's the other tricky part is I want to write on brand. And what do I mean by that? I mean, I don't every song I write is not a pitch for the company, but I want it to be on brand enough that it represents the company well, or speaks of the same grit and attitude that American Rebel as a company has. And so, you ain't seen nothing yet. Hold my beer. When all that came along, and so I got it on brand too. So all of those, all of those things were on the piece of paper as I started to write the song. And I was very thankful and blessed that, Porter Howe from Little Texas and Brady Seals from Little Texas. God bless Texas. Amy's back in Austin. Kick a Little. What might have been all those big 80s and 90s hits that they've been touring for Porter has for over 30 years. That they loved the idea and wanted to write it with me, because it always helps when you've got, two or three great writers in the room, and you're not trying to, we got no one to bounce it off of, or inject ideas. So that was a long answer, I know, but
No.
those were the those were the that's what I wanted the song to do. And I think, if you've played it or heard it, or it plays on this interview, I think everybody would agree we nailed it.
Mhm. Now, as the host of Maximum Archery, do you have a most memorable moment while traveling and filming?
Absolutely. I've got a couple. The Yukon, you know, going into Whitehorse and then taking a float plane, and having them take you out, 2 hours from any civilization, and drop you in the McMillan River in a trapper's cabin, and, you know, bow hunting big trophy, Yukon con moose, and horsebacking up mountains in Alaska, hunting Alaskan moose. And then, I love to elk hunt. I love to be on the ground and spot and stalk. I don't particularly like just sitting in a blind or a tree. I know whitetail, is the staple of bow hunting or hunting in general, but I'd rather be on the ground calling and moving and stalking and sneaking around. And then I got the challenge of bringing a cameraman with me. But the Yukon moose hunts are high on the list. But we came out of Alaska one time, and believe it or not, I was bow hunting brown bear. I took a brown bear on Kodiak Island with my bow, and there was a guy there who was rifle hunting brown bear, and his name was Chama from Mexico. And we didn't know, because he didn't speak much English. But when we cut about a month later, he had exchanged phone numbers with my cameraman, Mike Osborne. And we didn't know, but he was from a very fairly wealthy family down in Mexico. And one of the hobby businesses they had, it looked like a big business, but they raised bullfighting bulls and in Mexico. And these bullfighting bulls, like any cattle ranch, some would get loose. So some of them are actually feral, running around in the, 20 million acres of land they had. I'm not sure how big that ranch was. They had so many cowboys, and the ranch was so big, they had their own churches, their own grocery stores,
Wow.
their own bars that were self-contained in their ranch, just
It's
for
like it's
wet.
like a Bucky's.
Yeah, it's a Bucky's. That's right. Bucky's with an RV park.
That's right.
Uh, so anyway, he these feral bullfighting bulls, they can't round them up, because they just attack the horses and the cowboys. So they go out almost like a sniper rifle situation and put them down. And he told his granddad he knew someone that was dumb enough to come down here and try to hunt one with a bow, and called us up and said, "Hey, would you do it?" And of course, I did. I was, heck, sure, why not? How much more challenging can it be to a grizzly bear or a brown bear? Let's go. And that's one I'll remember, because that was tough. That was really tough and really dangerous. And had I had I had I known what I was getting into, I would have backed out. But once I got down there, I just couldn't bring myself to back out, even though several nights, or a handful of nights back at the casa there, I thought about, in the morning, I'm just going to tell them I'm not doing this. And then all right, well, let's see what today brings. But we got it done. But yeah, I've got a lot of memories around that. I could take the whole podcast and talk about that one. But
Like Popeye, you drank an American Rebel light beer, and that gave you the courage.
yeah, well, there's some of that going on in these commercials we were talking about earlier, that are cut. So that are coming out. So yeah, good analogy
Analogy.
there.
Yeah. So American Rebel, as we've been talking about, has grown into a recognizable brand. What products are under this umbrella? And if I'm not mistaken, I believe you are taking investors right now. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have a so we started with our concealed carry clothing, our backpacks, coats, and jackets, and we moved into gun safes. We also acquired our OEM manufacturer of gun safes, which was Champion Safe. So we also own Champion Safe in addition to American Rebel Safes. And we launched the beer, and when we launched our beer line, I mean, we've done this to some unbelievable success. We're in 18 states. We just got into our first NFL stadium, Lincoln Financial Field in Pennsylvania. So where the Eagles play, they'll be selling our beer. We're in a multitude of chain accounts now. Three great big ones in Pennsylvania. I know a lot about Pennsylvania because I just played there all weekend. We played 4 shows up there last weekend. So we're at racetracks, and we're a part of Tony Stewart Racing with Matt Hagan's,
Hmm.
4-time world champ funny car, Leah Pruitt's drag car, Top Fuel car. We're all over, Nashville, our home state where I live here in Tennessee. We're all up and down Broadway, Kid Rocks, Tootsie's, Honky Tonk Central, Rippy's, Whiskey River, Whiskey Bent, Doc Holiday's, just all up and down Broadway. And, we're just really thrilled, and we're in Old Miss Stadium, and just really thrilled with the success. Some say we're the fastest growing beer in history. I don't have any way of proving that to anyone, but from a lot of big distributors that carry our beer that do know the business, that's what we're hearing. I just say it tastes like freedom, but it is the only all natural light beer on the market, by the way. No corn syrup, no rice extract, just 2 row barley. So we've had tremendous success, and we knew the marketing was there. We knew the brand was there, but if they didn't like what was in the can, it was only going to be a short-lived sale and not a repeat customer. So we worked really hard on the formulation. And then, as far as the invest, we're doing what they call a Reg CF funding, where our customers, which really is what we want, is our customer base, to have some ownership in the company, and we have people that invest as little as $50,000, and as much as $250,000. So I'm sorry, $50, not 50,000. We have people who invest as little as $50, $100, $200, and they own part of the company and they own part of the brand. And there's some really good things around the investment, some really nice perks that we send along when they do. We just make them part of our patriotic family, and bring them into American Rebel. And who better to own part of the company than the customers that relate to the products, use the products, and love what we stand for and love our messaging.
And I saw if they act now before July 13th, they actually get bonus shares. So that's always great to have that, be the first
Yeah.
one in and reap the most benefit from that. Um, so what were the biggest, and also I'm from Arizona, so I see that it's pending in Arizona. So as soon as you guys come to Arizona, I'll be
Yeah.
paying you a visit.
Yeah. And Corey lives in Arizona. He's in
Oh,
Scottsdale, Corey
oh,
Lambrick. So
I'm
maybe
south
you'll
of
have to meet
Tucson.
him for a cold one time, huh?
I'm south of Tucson. So, tell us about American Rebel as far as what were the biggest obstacles in building American Rebel from the ground up?
Well, I think the challenge is there, in building a business or a podcast or a music career or a company. Shoot, building a family. None of it's easy. One of the many things this country does better than any other country on the planet is, provides opportunity. And I just think people need, I think people do understand, but it's opportunity mixed with difficulty. It's not just opportunity and opportunity. It's opportunity mixed with difficulty. It's hard.
Mhm.
There's challenges and struggles, and, things don't come together. And, you know, in this country though, you can try, and if something doesn't work out, you can recorrect yourself and keep trying till you get it right. If everybody's pretty forgiving, and there's just, again, the land of opportunity. So um, a lot of challenges come our way. We've have so many in the with this beer launch because the alcohol industry in itself is just so many challenges from regulators, from the regulatory stuff out there, and each state has different laws. They're not, a lot of the states share kind of 80% of the same rules and laws, but they all have some different twist when it comes to taxation and shipping and delivery and when they can getting licensed and in each and every state. So you don't have to just do it once every time you enter into a state. It's like you got to figure all that out, and you're like, well, how can that be? The state right next to it, we're allowed to do this, but we can't do it here. But are you telling me that I can't apply for my license till I already have my distributor? But in the state next to you, they said I can't talk to a distributor till I have my license. And when did they pay the tax? And they can't touch the product till. So there's just so much going on that you have to know, and how you can promote something in one state where you can't. We can give away a hat, let a retailer give away hats in a store for a tasting in this state, but they can't do anything giveaways in the next state. So there's a lot to learn. But business itself is challenging, and being successful is hard. But failing is also challenging and hard. So you just got to keep digging. I always say a dog won't bark at a parked car, so better wake up every day and get moving.
Yeah. And people can follow your success, chart your progress. You're all over the place right now, but they can find you at Facebook, Andy Ross, and follow you there and see where you are every day, because it looks like right now you're very busy. If you could give one piece of advice to a young person who wants to build something meaningful, what would it be?
I think if someone was, especially if they were young, um, and you could catch them early and you could catch them young, I would tell them one key to success is to work harder on yourself than you do your job. um, you got to invest in yourself. You got to invest in reading the right books. Read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. uh, Develop some disciplines. And I know this sounds really, really oversimplified, but you know, if you make your to-do list for the day, and at the top of the list you put make your bed, and you're young and you wake up and you make your bed, that the idea isn't that your bed's made. The idea is that you checked something off your list, your to-do list, already in the first 3 minutes of that day, and you're on a roll. It's not, don't take long to make your bed, but just disciplines, some try to do something at the end of the day when you're done, that you just really don't, man, I just don't, boy, I'm just beat. I don't have time to practice to get my guitar today. Just pick it up for 5 minutes. Just make yourself do something, every day that you might not feel like doing. I would advise to young kids and adults alike, as a man of faith, put God first. Always be thankful. Be thankful
Yeah.
for what you do have, because even where you sit today, I promise you, if you're living in this country watching this podcast, I don't know what's going on in your life, uh, but you got it better than most around this
Mhm.
world, and you got a lot to, whether you think you do or not, you got a lot to start with. You got a lot going for you. Um, you were born on the right side of this rock to achieve your goals, and just be thankful for what you have and where you're starting. Don't worry about what someone else was handed, and again, get moving.
There's a lot of videos out there right now of people from other countries who came here for the World Cup, and they're just amazed at the United
Yeah,
States. So we are truly blessed.
yeah.
Now, and again, we're speaking with Andy Ross. He's the CEO of the publicly traded American Rebel Holdings. It's a company that has American Rebel light beer and gun safes and many other products. Now, Andy, freedom lovers and business owners supported Trump because of his economic policies. What policies do you think had the biggest impact on entrepreneurs and small businesses?
Well, I mean, I have a little bit of a different maybe take on that. The one thing that I'll say, the as entrepreneurs and business people, we're all kind of dealt the same hand. If so and so becomes president instead of so and so, that president is in office, that we're all running a business in the country with that president in office.
Yeah.
It's not like somebody's handing you this president with these politics and everybody else got this president with better politics. I mean, we're all dealt the same hand.
Right. Right.
And I haven't, depending on who's president and who's in office, may make your day more challenging, or may work against you a little bit, or may help you a little bit over here. Um, but at the end of the day, we're all on the same playing field, and uh, to not get up and just focus on what you got to get done today, focus on what you can control. Um, that's how you're going to become successful, not sitting back waiting for so and so to get elected, or if these Democrats would just get out of the House, or if my guy would just win. I mean, of course, it steers the country, and maybe some of your political beliefs and your ethic beliefs, and that you want your candidate. We all have the right to choose, which is one of the great things about this country. We get to vote, um, and your person might get in office, but it's really what you do over the four
Yeah.
years of no matter who's in office is what's going to make the difference, not one elected official's policy. So um, I just focus on what we can get done at American Rebel, and go down the road that is in front of us.
Yeah. Excellent. Now, Andy, when people look back on your career someday, what do you hope they remember most? The music, the television work, the business success, or something else entirely?
Well, let's talk of the TV show. We've been off the air for a while. I had to pick and choose if I was going to do music more full time, and I had that opportunity. And the business, I couldn't be hunting 7 months out of the year, and that was kind of that was the foundation, or the springboard that this all started from, because I did the music on the show that led to that led to the song American Rebel, that led to me meeting Corey, and led to the company. So I'll go to the music and the company, and I would love and believe American Rebel will be an iconic brand, weaving into woven into the fabric of the flag, like a Smith and Wesson, like a John Deere, you know. And I believe American Rebel will be here and be a brand, and probably achieve things and do things much bigger than I'm even dreaming right now, long after I'm gone. Um, Also on the music side, who wouldn't want one or two or three of those songs to be stuck around, after you've, moved on, and maybe recut by somebody, and, live 100, 200 years down the road, like some of the iconic classic songs that have been recut. And so, I think the brand. I mean, I think the American Rebel brand legacy
Hmm.
will always be attached to the music a little bit, because they're we're the house band for American Rebel. That's what we are.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see the brand. I think the brand will continue on. I think it'll again achieve things that somebody else, some CEO, long after me, 50 years from now, I'm sure there'll be a 50th anniversary Rebel Light can, that I'll never see. So I think the brand will live on for sure.
Is there any future plans that you're able to share with us?
We always said, when we started, that day Corey and I met, we started American Rebel, and we said it's America's patriotic brand. We want to see American Rebel beer, American Rebel charcoalers, American Rebel grills, American, motor oil, American Rebel tools. And I even joke and say pool cues and wheelbarrows. I want Susie to go up to Mom and say, "Mom, what's Dad want for Father's Day?" And she says, "Honey, anything with American Rebel on it. We're America's patriotic brand. We're a lifestyle brand." So what I would say to answer that question is, I'm probably not going to make pool cues, but I would honestly like to see an American Rebel pool cue. So if there's a pool cue company out there that would want to do an American Rebel pool cue and be a part of our patriotic family, we would like to do licensing deals with the brand, bring them into our marketing, um, in forms of licensing. And I'd love to see pool cues and beef jerky and tools, and clothing, and all kinds of things. But in order to do those things, we're not going to be able to be experts in all of it. And we've got our hands full with the beer. It's a $110 billion market. So, we've barely scratched, even the 18 states we're in, we've just scratched the surface in those states. So, we're new. And so we've got our hands full. So, and every can that's out there has the brand on it. So it's advertising for the brand. So licensing is something that I'm excited about, getting other products into market and doing that through a licensing, structure. And Corey's got some background in that. So that might be something around the corner.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Now, before we go, what can people find at your website, andyross.com?
So andyross.com, that's going to be, 90%, 80% the music, the story, the American Rebel story, and the music and the songs. And some of these songs that we might have talked about today, Cold Dead Hand, American Rebel, some of the hunting songs, Blood Trail on a Whitetail. I mean, everything's there, the new stuff, the old stuff. So it's more music, oriented. Then AmericanRebel.com, and then AmericanRebelBeer.com, which you have to be 21 to enter, or to get into the site. AmericanRebelBeer.com really talks about the beer, the brand. Uh, all the sites touch on our relationship in motorsports with Tony Stewart Racing. The information on our Reg CF, where customers are becoming owners and investors. That AmericanRebelBeer.com. So it's not hard to find. You can kind of get from one site to the other anyway. So, wherever you get started, you'll have the opportunity to buzz around, the whole level of sites that we have. But AmericanRebelBeer.com or AndyRoss.com or AmericanRebel.com is a great place to start. All of our socials are American Rebel Beer, at American Rebel Beer. All the Andy Ross socials are at Andy Ross Rebel. And like I said, everything's pretty easy to find out there.
Excellent. We've been speaking with Andy Ross, singer-songwriter and CEO of the publicly traded American Rebel. And you can be part of this company by investing today at American Rebel. If you act now before July 13th, there's actually bonus shares on the line. So check it out. Andy Ross, this has been a real honor. I hope you can come back sometime. And thank you so much for being my guest today.
It's a pleasure. I'll be back anytime. Let's do it.
Great.